And we're live. Welcome to Carnivore Night School on Wednesday night. I'm John Laspina, the Carnivore teacher, and tonight's topic is mental health on the carnivore diet. And we'll talk everything mental health, mental acuity, emotional health, and how this has improved our lives. And I'm hoping that DC comes on. He's got a lot to share in that category. If not, it'll be just us. Let's go around and introduce ourselves. I'll go first since I started first. I have a YouTube channel called The Carnivore Teacher, and I'm on other social media sites, and I am paying it forward because this diet has improved my life so dramatically. This January coming up will be 6 full years of low carb and 2 full years of carnivore. And tonight's benefit that I'm going to talk about is my emotional health, my mental clarity. Night and day has improved dramatically. I think it's one of the best improvements of all the things that have happened to me that are positive by changing my diet. It's the change of my mind. And that's why it's so important that we talk about that tonight. How about you, Christy?
So my name is Christy and my channel is Meeting Wellness, but I am also a carnivore teacher. I teach 5th grade. I'm not retired like my friend over there in the window next to me. I teach 5th grade, and this is my 25th year doing that. So we have a lot of fun together. The carnivore diet that I've been on for a little over a year now gives me the energy to keep up with those, 31 10-year-olds that I'm responsible for. But to this topic, I'm also excited to talk about my mental health because I agree with John 100% that it's one of the most, I guess, like sustainable and constant benefits that I've had, where some of my other healing has maybe been a little bit of an up and down kind of a journey. One of the things that has helped me to stay on this carnivore way of eating has been the incredible mental clarity and improvements in my mental health. So I am excited to dig into that tonight. How about you, Rick?
Well, you know me. I started the carnivore diet in 1983. I'm a little crazy. I'm sort of like the Addams family of the neighborhood. So I don't know about mental health, but I'll tell you one thing. With all the problems that I have to deal with, I always find a way to make it happen. And I guess when you don't really have a lot of illness, it's a lot easier to get things done. You're not chronically ill. You're not suffering. You can sleep really well. You're strong enough to get things done. I think that makes a big difference right there. And I also was a teacher for a while. I taught electronics at Miami-Dade College for about 13 years. So I'm pretty familiar with trying to help people to learn. And that's another reason I go on YouTube. I figure my sort of quacked up experience might help other people to learn a little bit about the carnivore lifestyle and some of the things that we can do and some of the problems we can solve. So I'm always glad to be here.
Who's next?
Dr. Nelson.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Dr. Nelson Vasquez, a family physician in Florida for a long time. Carnivore for 496 days. So 4 more days, be 500. Multiple health benefits regained or on my way to regaining. Long list. I am amazed, in fact, what I have learned in the past few years relating to a proper human diet and mental health. And it's incredible. Been for months, probably over a year, mentioning to patients about Dr. Georgia Ida, about Dr. Christopher Palmer and their books. I already read one. You have the other one. I have that one on queue for my Audible. It's just I have too many things I'm listening to. But I think I don't know if you read both books, Brain Energy and that one, John, did you?
Not the other one, just this one so far.
Okay, I did read Brain Energy. I think I have the feeling that this one is an easier read, but I don't have really much basis except having heard them both speak. They're both wonderful, but for some reason, I think this one might be an easier read.
It's fluent. I like books that are fluent. You read them and they're easy. It's technical, but yet it's not. I mean, the wording is very smooth.
So I'm a teacher of sorts because the word doctor comes from teacher. So And I have taught in many ways, not only patients, seminars, and the like.
Thank you. All right, Peter.
Okay, my name is Peter, otherwise AKA Papa Carnivore. 19 months. I just hit my 19th month carniversary November 1st. Or not only physically, but we're going to talk more about mentally, which for me is huge. So I had suffered from.
He keeps popping out and popping back in. It might be his connection, his internet connection. Come on back, Peter. All right, while we're waiting for Peter to come back, usually he pops right back on. I'll get started, and if he comes back, I'll stop and let him continue. So I wanted to read an excerpt from Dr. Georgia Eads' book, Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind, just to start us off. There he is. Let him finish. All right, your internet connection or something. There.
Yeah, I switched off the Wi-Fi. I'm at work.
All right. I'll let you finish before I keep talking. Go ahead, finish.
Hopefully it was just that. But I suffered from chronic bipolar, depression, and anxiety, ADHD for many, many years, many decades. Tried all different types of medicine. You know, many of you know Carrie from Homestead How and the bucket of antidepressants. Well, I've got my own bucket. I never saved all the bottles, but Carrie and I have discussed, you know, all the different stuff. But I will tell you, within about 3 weeks on Carnivore, that pretty much went away. It was crazy. And weaned off all those medicines. Within about 6 months, I was off with the help of my psychiatrist. I was medicine free. And I'm just happy, healthy, and hopeful. And if anyone out there is suffering with any type of depression or anxiety, ADHD, all of these things, there is hope, because other things just did not work for me at all. And maybe 5% better, 10% at most. This is really the way to go. And I guess we'll get into it a little bit more as we go.
All right. I wrote that down. That's how powerful that is. Hope. That's a great, I like to take notes when people are talking, something that grabs me. It's kind of how I make my videos every day, is something just hopeful. It gives people hope.
I'll give you one to write down. The 3 H's of a proper human diet.
Yep.
Happy, healthy, hopeful.
Yep. I agree.
That's something to write down. And that's 100. What I always say to people. Those are the 3 H's of a proper human diet, whether it's carnivore, for me anyway, ketovore, whatever, that's it for me.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm probably going to make a lesson on that using the 3 H's. All right. I'm going to share a paragraph from the book, from Dr. Georgia Eads' book. I made an entire video on my YouTube channel. I just read the paragraph. I'm going to share it on the screen, and then we can discuss the paragraph, parts of it, pieces of it, anything that you'd like to share as we go around. So I'm going to share this screen. It's just, there's no pictures. It's just the page there. Can you all see it?
No.
No, you can't see it.
Yes.
You can. You can. Okay. All right. So let me read this out loud as you guys are looking at it. It just dings a lot of bells in my head as I read this part of the book. It's near the beginning. Medications can and do change brain chemistry, and they have their place, but I'm convinced that the most powerful way to change brain chemistry is through food, because that's where brain chemicals come from in the first place. Neurotransmitters are made from food. The brain cells that pass them back and forth to communicate with each other are made from food, and even the salty soup that surrounds them is made from food. Optimal mental health requires that your whole brain be made of the right stuff. So if you have a mental or physical health problem of any kind, the first place to look isn't your medicine cabinet, it's your pantry. This advice holds true whether you view mental health conditions as primarily biologically driven or psychologically driven, because as we'll see in the coming chapters, the way we eat has a profound impact on brain development, neurotransmitters, stress hormones, inflammation, antioxidant capacity, brain energy production, brain aging, and brain healing. There is only so much you can do to reduce your exposure to stress. Nothing you can do to change the genes you were born with or the childhood you experienced, but you can change your diet, and changing your diet can change your mind. That's how fluent this book is. I just love how she writes, Dr. Georgia Ede. There's so many pieces in that that just ring true to me. And let's see if I can unshare this now. Hide. Oh my gosh, I can't unshare it. There it goes. Now I could see your faces again. So let's talk about parts of that or any of that. Share your thoughts from your life, your family, how eating properly, which is taking out the starch, sugar, and seed oils, has improved your emotional health and your mental health. We'll start with Christy. And everybody, while we're doing this, let's all mute ourselves while the person's talking, so in case there's any background noise.
Okay, I'm so happy to talk about this, and let me know. I would like to talk about my own journey and then my son's journey, but if you want me to break that up, I totally can. So let me know, John. But
do both.
Okay. So I'll start with myself because I'm the one who started on the proper human diet first. I started actually keto in February of 2023, just to lose weight. I had no idea what the other health benefits are to eating a proper human diet. I just thought, I want to lose 20 pounds, so let's do this. And as I ate keto, I did lose those 20 pounds, but I just got a little lazy, didn't feel like cooking the vegetables. And before I knew it, in June of 2024, I was carnivore, kind of accidentally. I didn't even know carnivore was a thing. I didn't know about all of you other wonderful carnivores that I would meet over the next several months. But then I started looking into it, and I, found doctors online, and then people like Rick over there, who's been carnivore for 41 years. And I was like, okay, I guess this is okay. Like, Rick didn't have his heart attack, so I guess it's okay to do. And then in that same month, things started happening to me, and I couldn't even believe that I had mental problems like anxiety, for an example. I had no idea that I had social anxiety until it just kind of went away. And then looking back, I was like, I don't think that was normal, the way that I was experiencing life, and the desire to live day to day and be around other human beings. So what do I mean by that? I mean, I didn't want to go to the grocery store because people were looking at me. I thought people were thinking, why is she wearing that? Or does she have a zit on her face? Or how come she's not wearing makeup? That's weird. She should probably be wearing makeup. Like, no one was thinking any of those things. Her butt looks big in those pants, whatever. I was projecting these thoughts, that I thought other people were having about me so strongly and so negatively that I just didn't want to go to the store. Or I didn't want to go for walks outside. Or be in public, because I would just be constantly worried about what other people thought about me, mostly about the way I looked or what I was doing. She's walking funny or whatever. And then the next thing I knew, I was taking up sprinting at the age of 48 and like sprinting up and down my street and like talking to neighbors while I was doing it. Like, if I saw a neighbor, I'd be like, hey. I didn't care that I'm not an athlete, that I probably look super weird when I sprint because I've never been taught how to sprint and I'm just out there running, None of that occurred to me. It was just like, hey, because people would be out there walking their dogs, and some of them would ask me what I was doing, or they'd tell me they used to sprint in high school or whatever, we just get in these conversations. Very shortly, my son got invited to an amusement park by a family I didn't know. And normally I would have avoided that like the plague. But I told him he could go if I also went, just because it's kind of far from our house and I didn't feel good sending him with total strangers. But I was like, hey, if I go, then that's fine. You can go. Who even am I right now? Like, I didn't want to go be around all those people, like the crush of an amusement park, the lines, the like claustrophobic way you are in a building with hundreds of other sweaty masses. Right. But it was like, sounded fun to me, which was super weird. So those were the first things I noticed. And then it was like, I attributed those feelings to being an introvert. And John will know what I mean because he's also an introvert, and so I think I've always been an introvert. I'm still an introvert, but I do enjoy spending time with other people. It's just that I'm going to get my energy back later by recharging alone on the couch for a little while before I have the energy to do this again. But it had gotten slowly over time to the point that I didn't even want to go to family gatherings just because I didn't want to be around people. I didn't want to have those conversations. I would stress out about what everyone was going to say and what they were going to think about what I said. And so I just didn't want to go. And I would get out of stuff like as much as I could. And I'm just not doing that anymore. I go to things. I look forward to going to things. It's just a whole different outlook. So even though I'm still an introvert, it's like, oh, wow, that's actually not what an introvert is. So that was just a cool realization. So it wasn't like what Papa Carnivore was saying. I wasn't on a bunch of medications, but I just gradually my world had sort of just gradually closed in, that I just didn't notice it until suddenly it just kind of went away. So that was super cool. And then to get into my son's story a little bit. So I did this carnivore thing. Starting with keto in February until, the next February came around. So February of this year, 2024. And I had been thinking a lot about him, because he has ADHD. And I'm not going to go real deep into this story because I have several videos. I made a playlist even on my channel. But he had a lot of symptoms of ADHD that a lot of people don't even know are really symptoms of ADHD. A lot of people think, oh, a kid with ADHD, they just wiggle, like they can't sit still. They, have a hard time doing school, like that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of other symptoms that can go hand in hand with ADHD, and they kind of explain it like an iceberg. So like the stuff you can see above the water is the stuff I just said, the not holding still, maybe the tapping of a pencil or the kicking of their foot or something. And then what's under the surface is like all of these other symptoms that can range from like oppositional defiance disorder, just basically not wanting to go along with any of the program that's supposed to be happening. It can be emotional dysregulation. I mean, there's just a whole, laundry list of symptoms. So my son had all of the typical classic symptoms, but in addition, although never diagnosed with ODD, it was like everything was almost impossible. Anything from just, hey, it's time to go brush your teeth, that could turn very quickly into World War III over brushing teeth, to clean your room, to it's time to get ready for school. We tried lots of different interventions, and none of them were successful. He also had extreme emotional dysregulation. So everything would be fine. You would say one thing and he would lose his mind and have a meltdown. The difference between a fit and a meltdown is a fit is a kid doing it to be manipulative. And if you give them their way, the fit will usually stop. Not that that's what you should do, but that's how you know. A meltdown, they can say that they're, whatever, they're yelling, they're screaming. And if you give them what they say they want, they still melt down. Like it doesn't change it. So it's like something goes wrong in their brain. It's like a switch flips. He would just lose it. He would throw things, hit things, break things, fall on the floor, scream, yell, call names. And this would happen several times a week. It would even happen at school sometimes. So he had these, regular meltdowns, and just a variety of symptoms like that. So we had tried everything from counseling in and out of school to education plans, IEPs and 504s. John, you'll know very well what those are. Everything from occupational therapy, which the school system offered, and we also paid for that outside of school. At the end, we even tried medication because nothing else was ever did even one thing. We tried speech therapy, I didn't mention. So we tried the laundry list as well as my strategies that we are trained as teachers. Oh, if a kid has ADHD, you do these things like a visual schedule or chunking tasks into smaller, more manageable pieces for them so that they're able to, complete things. And not one thing worked, touched it, changed his behavior, changed his outlook, changed the family dynamic, nothing, not even the medication. And so I just thought, well, my mental health, which had some issues, I didn't even know I had issues, got better. I read Dr. Georgia Eads' book and I thought, maybe this can help him. I mean, it can't hurt him. Let's give it a try. But at this time, at the time that I had these thoughts, you know, he's 15. So I've got to get buy-in from this kid, right? He's not 3. I can't just be like, here's your food. This is what you have, and withhold all the rest of it from him, because he has the ability to eat at school. They serve 2 free meals a day that the kids don't have to pay for. I wouldn't have to put money in his account or give any kind of permission. He could just go get that food. He does extracurricular activities like the school band, where pizza and things like that are provided on a pretty regular basis. And so I had to get buy-in from him. You know, he thought about it. He agreed to try it. And within a week, he was able to like clean his whole room without me, A, telling him, or B, saying, hey, clean this part, or just clean this part, or negotiating with him to try to get him to clean. He just cleaned it, like the whole thing on his own, organized it, which I'm not the you got to clean your room, mom monster, because I stopped fighting that battle years ago when I stopped winning that battle. It's not about the fact that his room was clean. It's the fact that he could take that complex task and like organize it and tackle it and not be stopped by thinking, my room is messy, but that seems hard, so I'm just going to go play a video game instead, which is what he used to do. He started getting ready for school on time. So we would fight every day about getting out the door for school. He just gets in the car on time without a whole bunch of prompting. And you know, he's lately becoming a lot more social. So he would maybe do one social thing, maybe a year, like extra outside of what he's doing for school. And between the middle of October through Halloween, he did like 4 social things. Like he had a friend over, he went to a school dance, he got invited to go trick-or-treating. He went, he didn't eat any candy, but he hung out with his friends, and he got invited to a birthday party. P.S. It was a girl's birthday party. Ooh, and he went to that. So, you know, there's just all these social things all of a sudden happening that he's realizing he's got invitations for. He's accepting these invitations. He's coming to me and letting me know about them. He doesn't drive yet. And so, you know, getting right, organizing all of that stuff, that's like the coolest, latest development. But if something is happening, you can just discuss it with them, where he used to just pitch a fit about it, you know, throw a meltdown, refuse, get passive aggressive, argue, become very lawyer-like. He would argue both sides. Like you could tell him, okay, let's do it this way. Okay, you don't like that, let's do it this way. And neither of the ways would be right. He'll just pick a way and go with it. It's like a night and day difference, in terms of the way he behaves at home, the way he interacts with us, his peers. It's just been amazing. So if you have a kid with ADHD, I would highly suggest putting them on a proper human diet. And if you want to know more information about how I did it, because I did not think it was going to be easy. He has a lot of sensory issues as well that go along with his diagnosis. So textures and things are very difficult for him. But we were able to do it in a way that he is very successful. And you'll be happy to know, Dr. Nelson, my son loves picanha. So he eats picanha like nobody's business. Yeah, he's a much happier kid. So that's my personal experience and my son's experience. It's really just been life-changing for both of us.
Thank you so much. That is so valuable. From everything you said, I feel like I was talking to my teacher friends at school, and I've taught middle school students for years, and I've seen everything you mentioned in students at school. So I'm so happy that the solution has been found for your son. And it's just, and he knows, right? It's why he didn't eat that Halloween candy. He knows he's going to go back to the way he was before. So intrinsically, he's taking it on himself, and he's becoming automatic with it, which is just a miracle. It's fantastic. Yes, I'm so happy. All right, Rick, tell us your unique mental, emotional experience.
Well, I'm actually kind of impressed that Christy would be inspired by a quack like me, because my experience is pretty interesting. And obviously she's one of the people that put a heart attack chicken video out there. So there's definitely something going on there. But mine's unique because I'm sort of the one that everybody turns to when they're having a meltdown, when they're having problems. They don't know what to do. They get frustrated, whether it's a technical issue or whether it's a personal issue. And they come to me bouncing ideas by me to see if they can come up with a solution. And a lot of times, I had a friend of mine that he moved out of here years ago. He called me today. He had a technical question. He started describing the problem. And then all of a sudden he says, oh, I think I know what to check. I think a lot of it is because when people talk to me, jump to conclusions. Now, my dad was one of those people, and I learned a long time ago, if you say the wrong thing, he will instantly counter with some type of idea, you know, well, I think you should, no, it can't be that way. And so I learned a long time ago, you don't talk to people like that. You just kind of do what you got to do and let them deal with their problems. Now, when I started to think about this, I can think about when I was in elementary school, and I don't know the exact year, but I do know somewhere in the mid 70s, I was always sort of an anxious kid, and I had a bad temper, and I had a lot of issues. And I guess when you're small and everybody picks on you, that's part of it. And I remember they had the school psychologist one time in the elementary school over there trying to talk to me to figure out what's going on. And then we got referred to somebody at Variety Children's Hospital. Now, again, that place has been renamed like 2 or 3 times since then. So it might have been like mid 70s, maybe 76, 77, somewhere around there. And it was really difficult for me because a lot of times school is very boring. To this day, I get bored when I have to sit around and do nothing. If I have to sit through a lecture, or even like my friends that love to watch sports, I get extremely bored because it's something I have no control over. It's like this whole political crap. Everybody was all anxious about that. I didn't watch any of it. I could care less because I said, look, things are going to be the same. Nothing's going to change overnight, you know, but people get all upset. And this morning, my vegan friend, she comes over to get some compost for her garden. Their garden is dying again. And I said, you know, all this time, you haven't learned how to compost. Well, she was having a meltdown because of the thing that went on. And the person that she wanted to win didn't win, and the other person won. And then she had a total breakdown. And, you know, it's like, what did I do? You know, I didn't really say anything. She started crying and getting upset. And I go, oh, not this again. So, you know, I sent her with her buckets of compost and started thinking about it. Said, you know what? The vegans that I know, they always seem to have these meltdowns. And I don't know what it is. It could be something as small as, you know, the tire went flat on the car or something broke. Her cat knocked something over in the kitchen and she went into a total freak out. And as you know, I have a kitten, and this little thing is a disaster on 4 paws. It gets into everything. He discovered my phone system and ripped half the wires out of it, but you know, it's a cat. What are you going to do? I went there and I fixed it and I wrapped it up so he can't get to it. But I've noticed that a lot of people that I know, even other people, they run into a problem. Maybe they have a legal issue or they have some type of, you know, health issue or whatever. They get really, really upset. Now, I had a little health issue myself. I stepped on, I don't know if it was a rusty nail or whatever, when I was at the Home Depot. My foot hurt, it swelled up, and I was a little bit upset. But I thought, I've had this happen before. It'll get better, and it did get better. But from my own experience, I think about it. If I wouldn't have started the carnivore diet after junior high, I don't know what would have happened to me. Maybe I would have been one of those people that had mental issues. Maybe I would have been eating duck food and waddling and quacking. I don't know. But yeah, after I see your experiences, it kind of gives me a whole new perspective because I never had any idea that diet would have anything to do with the mental attitude or how you handle the world. So maybe, you know, maybe I avoided a lot. Or as they say, I dodged a bullet because going off on that heart attack diet, trying to give myself a heart attack, it actually did have a calming effect. And I can tell you, my grades did go up. I was much more able to participate in class. I was never really a shy person. I always tended to be outgoing. But a lot of times when I was outgoing, I would do something stupid. I'd regret it later. But then when I changed my diet, it seemed like every time that I did something, I wasn't really upset about it. You know, it wasn't like something you'd regret. It's like even now, I'll do an interview with somebody. A lot of people don't like to watch their interviews because maybe they regret saying the wrong thing. But when I watch myself on camera, I go, you know, I'm not that crazy of a person. I'm actually pretty coherent. So, I mean, I don't know if it's the diet. I don't know if it's a combination of things. But the way I see it, the carnivore diet can't hurt. And again, I grew taller, my grades went up, and my attitude got better. So To me, that's good enough. Could it have happened without the carnivore diet? Maybe it was just part of growing up. I don't know. But then again, would I really want to take the chance? Especially the way that my friends are all, they got overweight. They all have health issues. Every one of them has been on at least one prescription medication. I actually found an old prescription. It was a cough medicine. I think this is the only one I ever took in my life when I was cleaning up my stuff. And this is dated 1979, I think. So this is from Walgreens. This is back when they had the little gate you had to walk through. I think I found another one. There was some kind of eye drops, you know, this little bottle. I think I had an ear infection. I used to get these little things. Huh?
Rick.
Yeah.
I don't know. I call you Richard. Sorry.
It's okay.
But I have a son, Richard. We call him Ricky. Anyways, I think you need to throw that cough in.
Yeah, well,
it's the show and tell stuff. No, it's great. He has all this cool stuff to show us every week that none of us have ever saved. Don't keep it coming, Rick.
I'm not going to throw anything out. The thing is, you know, when I moved out of my parents' house for a while, I never got rid of anything. I just left the room as it was, and it just kind of sat there. So when I came back, I just started discovering all this stuff that's been laying around. I have a bunch of papers from elementary school. And if I ever get to going through some of that junk, maybe I can find some of those medical, you know, the medical things that we had. Maybe I might even find that thing from the psychologist. I don't know. They were trying to get me on some kind of medicine back then in the 70s. But thankfully, my parents said, no, this is not acceptable. My dad thought, you know, he'll grow out of it, you know, no big deal. And he was right, because I did grow out of it. But again, would I have grown out of it naturally, or was it because of the carnivore diet? We'll never know.
All right, Dr. Nelson. Do you want us to call you Dr. Nelson or Dr. Vasquez? What your last name? Velez.
I respond to anything.
Anything.
I respond to hey. I respond to Nelson. I respond.
All right, Dr. Nelson. Your turn, sir.
You know, I have a couple of subjects, I guess. First of all, I want to say, Christy, extroverts are people too. Okay. I grew up being an extrovert. I guess I'm still am. I don't feel ashamed to go and talk to people who are strangers. I do that every day for a living. Anyways, but I didn't think I was affected by Eckert's Pharmacy. That's an old pharmacy in Florida. I didn't think I was much affected with anxiety, right? But looking back, I've had 3 ulcers in my life. And I always, because I had back problems for almost 40 years, I always thought they were related to the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents I used to take. And in fact, all 3 ulcers have been around the time I'm taking. The first one was a lot of aspirin. The second and third one was a lot of ibuprofen. But you guys tell me, you be the judge. My first one, I was on call on my very first year of training. This is after finishing medical school and when you're learning to put things together. We know nothing even after getting a diploma because we haven't put things together. And it's a Sunday, I'm on call, I'm stressed because I have a lot of patients in the hospital and you know, that a big responsibility. Anyways, I almost passed out in front of, it so happens to be a gastroenterologist. Anyways, make long story short, ended up having an endoscopy. It was an ulcer, right at the junction of the esophagus and the stomach. My second time I had an ulcer, I was taking a lot of ibuprofen as well. Chronic pain. But guess what? It was the morning of going to take, for the very first time, my boards after finishing my residency. So my specialty boards. That morning, I had another ulcer. I took the test in pain the whole day. Third time, again, my boards come up several years later. That morning, I almost passed out. I had to stop at pharmacies to searching for Tums or whatever type of antacid. And looking back, these are extreme stressful times for many people taking big tests, or doing my training. I always associate it with the medications, and yeah, they may have been part of it, but I've taken medication, that type of medication, for many years and didn't have an ulcer except on those moments that there was a lot of stress associated. So looking back at training, looking back at movies, when people have a stroke or heart attack because of stress, that really happens. Okay, it's not always, usually you have to have some predisposition. So anxiety, stress does play a big, big role in things. And over the past few years, I have sort of learned that I can also have attention deficit, although my wife always knew, but and I tap things if I have a pen in my hand, if I have something to play with. I mean, have those typical, it's not overt. I wasn't, as a child, maybe hyperactive, but definitely, fly goes by, I might take my attention off of what I was doing. So tying this back to food and the book that you were talking about, when we in medical school trained, we did take psychiatry, and I also, part of my family medicine training was also psychiatry, a couple of months rotation in the mental health or psychiatric board floor. I mean, also theory. And if any of you have taken a psychology class, you know that they always talk about your mother and your childhood traumas. And I'm not minimizing those. Those can have an effect, but it's like separating two things that are just one. Your brain controls your physical connections, and it's also your mind. There is not a separate thing really, but in psychiatry and psychology, you study, you start with, of course, Sigmund Freud and the Erickson theory, and you go down the list of multiple psychiatry and mental illness and psychology theories, but it's all in the brain and the brain cells. And finally, when I read Dr. Palmer's book, Brain Energy, and I've heard multiple times already Dr. Georgia E. talking, okay, this makes so much more sense, because even if those theories may have some validity, and they do, they do, and childhood trauma and people with PTSD because of certain things, all those do affect, but their theories on these books make so much sense. It's amazing to me. And the fact that then you can fix those things with diet is almost incredible, because none of the medications that they use for mental illnesses is as effective as food. Now, I'm not saying don't use medications, because they do have its place. Today, I saw someone who's been 3 years on a X medication, and yeah, I'm doing okay. It's working for what they gave it to me. Okay, well, fine. You continue that. But many psychiatric medication are 20, 30% effective, sometimes even less. With food, you can achieve sometimes 50%, 60% of people being helped by changing the diet doesn't necessarily mean they go completely off medication at the beginning. With many of them, you probably have all seen the videos, anecdotal evidence of people doing just that. So 3 weeks ago, by the way, I was doing a seminar in a church talking about reversing diabetes, and I had a continuous glucose monitor, which I always wear, and I looked at my blood glucose before starting. Then I looked at my blood glucose after I finished. I had spiked 35 points on my blood glucose, and I was fasting. So I had not had anything to eat. I had water and maybe a little bit of water. And my blood sugar, there was a spike of 35 points. And it went down the moment I basically stopped speaking. And I didn't think, it affected me that way. But it's interesting to see sometimes the data that even if, because I'll do anything, I'll speak in front of 2 or 3, I'll speak in front of 500. I've done it before, but never thought the experience might affect me that way. And one last thing, I lived in Massachusetts for 8 years, almost at the border of New Hampshire. And every single year, even though I don't have a depressive personality, I got the winter blues, seasonal affective disorder. So I certainly have been much more happier being in Florida for 28 years than those 8 years. I also never saw the light of day. In the winter in Massachusetts, sunsets about 4:30, before 5. And so I would go out of the house in the dark, go to an office, go out of the office in the dark to go back home. I never saw the light of day. And it's so important, the light. Anyways, sleep well, be exposed to light, exercise. Those things also, in addition to food, matter.
Definitely. Thank you so much. That is so valuable. And you're our doctor. You're our resident doctor on our show tonight. So it carries some weight there. We appreciate that. Peter, Papa Carnivore, you have an amazing story. Yeah.
Save the best for last, huh? Okay. So I kind of started getting into it a little bit, but being that I've suffered from bipolar depression, anxiety, ADHD we're talking decades. When I started back in January of 2023 on keto after being diagnosed actually with type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure. Really kind of that was the impetus. It had nothing to do with the mental at all. I mean, I didn't get into keto or proper human diet for mental. I had no idea that was going to affect that at all. I had no clue. So I started keto about 3 weeks into keto, or not even 2 weeks into keto. I kind of went more ketovore because I don't really like vegetables all that much anyway. So I just decided to kind of cut back, and I was pretty much, I would say 95% carnivore, call it ketovore. And that's when all the mental stuff started happening, and the brain fog went away. That's kind of the first thing. And I just started feeling happy, for the first time. Like I can't even remember. And, when you have ADHD, my big thing was I would talk over people. And I don't know if you guys see that in the kids when you're teachers, but I couldn't listen. I would have to talk. Because my mind was going so fast, that I would just talk. So I wouldn't even listen to what the other person was saying. I was just in such a rush to say what I wanted to say, to get out what because they would say something, and in an ADHD person's mind, 9 billion things just start going based on what you just said. Now I'm thinking a million different things, and I got to shoot those out. What started happening was all of a sudden my brain slowed down. And Christy, that slowing down of the brain, I'm sure that's what you kind of saw with your son, right? And I could think and I could process things like a human computer. All of a sudden, I started being able to listen better. And that was like the big thing right there on that. I guess after about I want to say a month, maybe something like that, it started getting better and better, I would say. And hold on a second, I'm moving. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking, maybe I don't even need this medicine anymore. But I knew from listening to other videos and Dr. Barry saying, don't just wean off these, don't just stop cold turkey, these medicines. So I started working with my psychiatrist and, of course, totally against his, fear, he didn't want me to change anything. But I kept insisting I'm feeling better. I want to try and cut this down. And I was very aggressive in pushing to reduce these things down. And as I said, over the period of maybe, I guess it was 6, 7-ish, 8 months, I had completely gone off all of my medicines. And in fact, he still thinks I'm taking one that he has no idea. He thinks I'm still, and I didn't want to sit there and argue with him. He was just adamant. You cannot go off of this one for bipolar. You can't, this particular one. And so it's like, okay, I no problem. And I just kind of left it there. Well, it's funny because I had a psychiatrist appointment because I have it every 90 days because he refills my prescriptions. And I go, okay, that's great. And then I never pick them up, whatever. Oh, yeah, thank you. And I'm thinking, why am I doing this? I mean, I'm not taking anything and I'm just spending money. You know what I mean? Like, why am I, it's $150 or whatever. So I canceled my last appointment. And I guess at some point he'll notice that I disappeared or something, because he must think, well, how is this guy living without this bipolar medicine that he has to have? He's going to, go off the reservation. But I just feel fine. I don't feel like I need any, I don't know. How am I doing so far? Do I seem okay? So, yeah. So I would just say that, and I know we're getting short on time, John, but as far as the last thing I wanted to go over was the anxiety, because I had that feeling of dread all the time, like, that, oh my God, the phone's going to ring and it's going to be this, when Robin, Carnivore's grandma, she talks about, I had that same thing where the phone would ring and I'd be, oh my God, someone died, someone's dying. Oh my God, it's work and I'm in trouble, whatever. I had that impending doom anxiety. And, a lot of people call it like worrying, excessive worrying. My mom has that, it's terrible. And she takes medicine for anxiety, because she's got that too. And that went away, just melted away. I don't care. The phone rings. Okay. When I get the mail, I was always, I don't know, you're worried that, oh, it's something from the IRS. It's something, I owe money. It could be any of that stuff. All that stuff went away. I don't care. The mail comes. Okay, what's there? So that's kind of my quickie story. But I will tell you that for anybody who does suffer from, whether it's depression, anxiety, bipolar, whatever, ADHD, there is hope, and it doesn't always have to be, taking a million medications. I firmly believe in what Dr. Georgia Ede and Dr. Chris Palmer in their books say, because I've read both. And it, when you eat a lot of animal fat, a lot of, animal products, mainly the fat from animals, that repairs your brain. All of your neurons and everything in your brain, all the pathways. Think of electrical wiring. I'm going to use an auto mechanic Rick analogy. It's just like the insulation that covers electrical wiring. When you don't have enough fat, those wires get exposed. And what happens, Rick, when two wires touch that aren't supposed to touch? You get all kind of problems, right, Rick? And all hell starts breaking loose in that electrical system. And you got things doing crazy things that shouldn't happen. So I firmly believe that what repaired, a very serious mental issues was just getting those neurons, the insulation, the coating, the covering, the myelin sheath repaired. And when your brain is functioning the way it's supposed to function, and we just get out of the way of our body and give it the proper nutrition and the proper food, it's amazing what can happen. So that's what I got.
Everybody, thank you. And the comments I posted for a reason, because people will either watch this live or a lot more people watch it on the replay, and they're listening to it in their car. If it's like me, I have earbuds in my ear. I'm doing things. I'm always multitasking, and I'll put on somebody's podcast. Hopefully somebody's putting on mine. And if they get a chance to read the comments or hear these comments, you're reaching people. That's how people found Dr. Berry and found other people, through these podcasts, through people's comments. It's amazing how many people get reached. That's the whole reason I'm doing this and spending my time and with you is hopefully somebody who's having some problems, somebody who's depressed, down, emotionally having issues, brain fog, any of the things that people mentioned there. People are finding that when we eat properly, we fuel our brain. We're giving ourselves, the fatty acids are turning into ketones. The brain prefers ketones over glucose. The cholesterol that is high, that is actually healthy, is building our myelin sheaths. It's putting that insulation, restoring that insulation around our axons, our neurons, our nerves. It's fueling our testosterone, our estrogen, our progesterone for women, our vitamin D with sunshine. All of this makes us feel good. It balances all the 77 hormones that we have. When we eat properly, everything goes back into sync because we don't have too much insulin, which throws off another hormone, which throws off another hormone, the thyroid. It's all connected. And the simplicity in this is just eat meat. Just eat meat, fatty red meat and eggs until it stops tasting good. I add fish to that, pork and poultry too, but that's the amazing wonder of the carnivore diet. And if you're not a carnivore, you don't want to jump right into carnivoring, you're listening, you start with just taking out the ultra processed food. Just take out fast food and take out anything that comes in a box or a package with a barcode, and eat, go around the edge of the grocery store and buy meat and eggs and fish, and cook in animal fats only, not plant fats or seed oils, and just give it 90 days, give it 60 days, and you too will notice amazing benefits. One of the side effects is weight loss. That's why most of us started it, right? And then we stayed forever. I'm staying for the rest of my life because it's my turn to talk now. So that's why I'm going on and giving you my story. Is I had a lot of depression in my life. I was bullied as a kid in school. I am a severe introvert. I still am today. And an introvert is defined by where you get your energy. You get your energy from within. When I'm around other people, they drain me. And I need to rejuvenate by being alone. Extroverts get their energy by being around other people. They give them energy. They fuel them. So it's just, one's not better than the other. But knowing what you are and where your energy comes from is important. Just like, and Christy knows this about learning channels, I'm pretty sure. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, tactile learners. We learn that because we want to identify how our students learn. You identify if you're an extrovert or an introvert. Learning yourself and then fueling your body properly, it's like the magic formula of being happy and feeling healthy. I don't get depressed anymore. I am level or up all the time. all the time. And I've shared this story before. My parents recently passed away. They lived to be in their 80s, but one had ALS, late onset, and went very fast, my dad. And then almost a year later, my mom got bladder cancer, which spread to her bone. And I went up and visited, and it was terrible. And I know me, had this been the old me before I started eating properly, I would have been in a mess. I would have overeaten. I would have maybe drank. I would have done something to self-medicate because of the depression and the pain and the anxiety. And you know what? I was sad, but it was such a noticeable difference in how I reacted to the trauma and the stress in my family. My mom and dad, I handled it so amazingly well. And I stayed on my way of eating. I didn't even think about eating junk food to self-medicate. It was amazing. And I have many, many other examples of how my brain, I remember, I'll tell one more about mental focus. You know, every 4 years, or is it 5 years? I think it's 5 years. We have to recertify. We have to get our certification renewed. And in my county and district, we have to either take some classes to get 30, is it 15 or 30? I think it's 15 credit hours. And no, it's 150 hours. And we get a lot of it from school with in-services. They kind of build them into the things that we attend at school so that when it's time to renew, you can renew. Well, I still had to take a test and I had to read some stuff online. I had to take this one class for special education that was changed in the law. And in the past, it was so complicated and boring. I felt like Rick. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. It's so boring. But the last 2 times I did it, especially the last time, my brain was on fire. I was just laser focused, passed all the little mini quizzes and tests and exams, and wrote my paper, submitted it, got recertified like it was nothing. I wish I found this when I was in college, right? So it's mental focus, it's emotional repair. It repairs things in your brain. So people who have had schizophrenia or any other mental challenge, it repairs those damaged parts in the brain. I've heard so many stories of how eating the proper human diet has healed people mentally, emotionally. And of all the wonderful things that it has done for me, my lower back, my atrial fibrillation, my acne, I mean, all the things that I had, my weight gain, emotional and mental health is #1. Kerry Mann talks about his too. His is #1. And it's just phenomenal. It's amazing. So anybody listening, I recommend try taking out processed food, carb, sugar, and seed oil, and observe yourself, and you'll see amazing benefits. ADHD, ADD, OCD. I think I have a little bit of OCD, and it helps it along. Helps my introversion too. I feel confident when I'm around people. So
I don't know if you have done it before, John, but we need to take one of these hours to talk just about vegetable seed oils.
Oh, I have done it, but we'll do it again because seed oils are, it's in so much processed food. And people use it when they make food at home. And it is, I know a lot about it. I wrote a whole article on it in Healthy Use.
I've been to your website. I've read some of it. I mentioned to you the canola oil.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about seed oils next time. Let's go around because we're at the top of the hour. Everybody, thank you for sharing. This is going to be helping a lot of people if anybody's tuning in. Tell us where we can find you online. Christy?
Okay, you can find me at my channel, which is right down there, Meeting Wellness. I do a lot of things with interviews and recipes and talking about my son and his improvements there. He actually just agreed this morning that when he hits his 1-year carniversary in February, he'll do a live stream with me. So stay tuned for that. I also have a second channel that's Lioness Lifestyle. It used to be a show on my channel, but we split it off since we have 3 hosts, and so we made it its own little channel. And we go live every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, where we feature a meat-based woman and we hear her story. The most recent episode featured Emily Harveau. She's been a coach for Steak and Butter Gang, and she just has a fabulous healing story of her own. And so go back and catch that replay, and otherwise join us live on Tuesday for Lioness Lifestyle. We'd love to see you over there. I have to go pick up Zach from school, you guys. So I'm going to hop off if that's okay.
All right, Christy, take care.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Rick.
Yes.
Oh, tell us about Charge Your Mopar and your cool videos.
Well, there you go. YouTube is a hobby. I've been on YouTube for 17 years, never got a single penny out of it. I just put up videos based on things that I observe. I'm using some pretty basic equipment. In fact, right now I'm using a laptop I found at the dump. So I don't have the ability to edit. I don't have the ability to add special effects, at least not now. Maybe one of these days I'll be able to find the right software and equipment to do it. But I just put short videos on things that I do. Some of the views that I have a way of looking at the world that may be a little different than the average person. And unlike pretty much everybody else that started the carnivore diet, I didn't have any health issues, no chronic health issues. As you can see, when I went through what medicine cabinet I had some things in there that are probably more than 40 years old. So you won't find aspirin, you won't find ibuprofen or any of that stuff in my medicine cabinet. You'll find a rusty metal can with some really old bandages, and there's a couple of old bottles of I don't know what. And I think there was some glycerin. I think I saw the bottle here, and I remember as a kid using that for an experiment. But yeah, you just look. All you got to do if you want to find me, I'm on YouTube. I don't really do any other sites yet. Look for the 40-year carnivore, although it's been 41 years. And you'll see a lot of videos that I've been in. I've been in a bunch of live streams, and I've been in several interviews. I've been interviewed by the famous ones, even like Dr. Sean Baker and Anthony Chafee. And so, I'm easy to find. Let's put it that way. And I am the tallest carnivore in any of the groups. I'm 6'6". I've been doing it the longest, other than the rancher lady who's been doing it longer. So I'm easy to find. And if you can learn from me, that's great. That's all I want to see.
Thank you. Papa Carnivore.
Okay, well, you can find me at Papa Carnivore on YouTube and anywhere where no drugs are found, because I don't take any anymore. Pretty much you'll find me on the Carnivore Classroom. You'll find me on Nia's Way for Carnivore Mastermind. You'll find me Thursday nights on Old Guy Carnivore on our members live stream. I'm all over the place. I'm in all the comments and I'm in chats. I mean, you guys probably see me, right? So I'm out there, just look for Papa Carnivore. I'm here to help. I try and comment and send people messages. And if I see somebody that I think I can help, I'll shoot them out a comment or a message. And I just, want to share my amazing discovery with people and hopefully help heal people.
Thank you. That's why we're here. How about you, Dr. Nelson? Can we find you? Where can we find you? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
You can find me at looking for The Real Dr. Nelson on YouTube, and even though it's not very prominent on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, also look for The Real Dr. Nelson.
Is it The Real Dr. Nelson?
That Real Dr. Nelson. And one of them, I think Instagram couldn't get that name, so it says The Real Dr. Nelson Vasquez, my full name. Vasquez is my name. Nelson is easier to remember for many non-Spanish speaking people. I go by both. Patients might call me one or the other. I respond to anything. When I'm outside the office, my name is Nelson. My mama named me Nelson. She didn't name me Dr. Vasquez or Dr. So I respond to any of that.
Right.
I definitely talked for more than a year. actually 2 years, probably been talking to almost every patient I can about diet and about the effect it has on almost every aspect of your life. I didn't start it for any mental specific reasons. Also, I mentioned a few personal experiences. I think I am also more even keeled when I'm on carnivore. And I'm also frequently a sidekick to Dr. Kiltz in the mornings.
You get up that early, do you? He's
yes,
up like 5 a.m., isn't he?
Usually I'm up even before 5 or between, depending on how much I slept, between 4:30 and 5:30.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Mondays afternoon with him, also in his private group, which is free, Kiltz Mighty Network or whatever it's called. I'm also on Mondays on his weekly call. So also on Facebook, Metabolically Healthy Again. And I am on a mission to try to reverse metabolic diseases and diabetes.
Great. Thank you so much for that mission. And everybody, thank you for coming. And hope to see you next Wednesday night. I'll send you an invite if you can make it. All right, everybody, have a great evening.
Have a good night, everybody.